Is Yuji Itadori really the main character of Jujutsu Kaisen? No, personally, don't get me wrong, I actually really like Yuji as a character. But in this video, I'm going to assess whether or not I think he really serves as the main protagonist, because a lot of the fandom argues that Gojo feels like the main character, and I can't deny sometimes he really does. So let's start off with our intros. Yuji Itadori is a teenage boy currently in high school. Aside from being extremely physically strong, he's lived a relatively normal life with his grandfather until he stumbles upon a cursed object that was left at his school. After attempting to save his friends from being devoured by cursed spirits, he eventually ends up eating a cursed finger belonging to an ancient cursed spirit known as Sukuna. This kickstarts the main plot of the series, in which his destiny is to eat all the cursed fingers belonging to Sukuna and then be killed so that Sukuna can be taken out of existence. Yuji is then thrusted into the world of curses and must now attend Jujutsu High, where he will learn techniques to exorcise cursed spirits. Yuji has an exceptional skill level, making him one of the most powerful students at Jujutsu High. Satoru Gojo recognizes Yuji's potential, placing him alongside other promising students like Yuta Akatsuki and Kinji Hakari. Despite his recent introduction to the Jujutsu world, Yuji can confront and defeat grade 1 and special grade curses. He combines his superhuman physical abilities with curse energy and can effectively contain Sukuna without any adverse effects. This is a very amazing feat. One of Yuji's standout traits is his immense strength. Even without using cursed energy, he can easily destroy walls, bend soccer goalposts, and even go as far as to throw a car. His strength can further be augmented with techniques like the Divergent Fist and Black Flash, enabling him to exercise curses effectively. Yuji's unique strength is often compared to that of Kento Nanami, a grade 1 sorcerer, and he can even harm curses with exceptional durability like Hanami and Choso. In addition to his strength, Yuji has incredible speed, great reflexes, and is capable of running and dodging attacks from other skilled sorcerers. His durability surpasses that of an average sorcerer, enabling him to withstand multiple attacks and injuries, even when facing very formidable opponents. Yuji's stamina is remarkable, and he can continue fighting even when faced with grievous wounds. He excels as a proficient learner, mastering both martial arts alongside cursed energy. Yuji's grasp of cursed energy is still something in the works. He has learned techniques like the Divergent Fist and the Black Flash. His control over Black Flash has reached a new level where he can use it practically at will, and he has achieved this technique up to 9 times. Despite all these amazing feats, Yuji is not particularly gifted when it comes to cursed energy. So far in the series, he does not possess an innate technique, and when it comes down to the more powerful curses, Yuji isn't able to defeat them on his own. Now on the other hand, we have Satoru Gojo. Gojo is a teacher at Jujutsu High who is in charge of training the new set of Jujutsu sorcerers. Satoru Gojo is also a member of one of the 3 distinguished families, the Gojo clan. He is a prodigy even amongst the legendary Gojo clan, as he is the first in 400 years to be born with both of their special techniques, the legendary Limitless technique and the other technique known as the 6 Eyes. Due to being born with such powerful techniques, Gojo is considered the strongest sorcerer in the modern generation. His birth alone was such a phenomenon that it was stated that the birth of Gojo shifted the entire power dynamic of the world. Gojo's existence alone was enough to force evil sorcerers to hide, as they were afraid of ever having to face his wrath. And his presence alone naturally forced more powerful cursed spirits to be born, as this was the only way for their race to survive. As far as moving the plot along, Gojo has far more significantly affected the plot than any other main character in the series. So far, his impact is something that has spanned many years. And as far as impact, the only other characters that have done anywhere close would be our major antagonist Kenjaku, or even our main villain Sukuna. But due to his massive impact on the plot, Gojo can sometimes be seen as the main character, as a lot of the show is centered around him and his actions. Satoru Gojo stands out as the most powerful sorcerer in the series, renowned for his immense curse energy and formidable techniques. His dominance remains unchallenged in the current storyline, with the exception of the King of Curses, Sukuna. During his time as a student, Satoru, alongside his best friend Suguru Geto, earned the title of the strongest, effortlessly dispatching experienced curse users. Over time, Gojo honed his abilities to the point where he could overpower Toji Fushiguro, a feared sorcerer killer. His growth led him to far surpass Suguru Geto, who acknowledged Gojo as the undisputed strongest. Gojo's power was so immense that he could sway higher ups in the Jujutsu society, influencing decisions regarding executions, and even claiming that he could overthrow the entire society if he wished. He also believed that he could defeat Sukuna at full strength. Wink wink. Satoru's might was feared not only by humans but also by special grade curse spirits and their leader, Kenjaku. Even when confronted by formidable adversaries, Gojo proved to be an unparalleled force, overwhelming opponents with his combat skills, physical strength, and unmatched speed. He displayed resilience in dire situations, swiftly adapting to opponents' tactics. His intellect allowed him to devise effective strategies and counter enemy techniques. Limitless, which comes from the Gojo family, is a unique ability that lets users control space using cursed energy. This control over space leads to several cool techniques. Beyond the basic space control, we have Infinity. Now, Infinity is often confused as stopping things, but it's actually slowing them down. When someone tries to hit Gojo, they actually hit an infinite space between him. It's kind of like how Achilles can never catch the tortoise, because there are an infinite fraction separating them. Gojo can pick and choose what touches him based on mass, speed, and danger. He also has another technique called Blue, which involves Gojo amping the Limitless with cursed energy, creating a kind of empty space that forces people in the space, pulling everything in that area. Red is the opposite of Blue, which is a reverse curse technique that allows Gojo to push things away. And his special technique, combining both red and blue, creates an imaginary mass that gets launched at a target. When it comes to abilities, Gojo is the clear winner and outshines Yuji in every single way. His background drastically altered the plot, and he has far more techniques and strength. You can let me know if you think these things should affect the main character or not in the comments. Now let's dive into personalities. Itadori is very much like our typical shonen protagonist. He's a very caring and easygoing character. He makes friends easily and has a strong sense of morality. Yuji values the lives of others, whether he knows them or not. He believes it's important to ensure that everyone gets a proper farewell, and he refuses to harm people unless it's absolutely necessary. He's not all serious though. He has a fun and energetic side. He enjoys sharing funny moments, and when he sets his mind on something, he is determined and extremely passionate. Although he may not know much about curses, he's a quick learner and has been adapting to situations relatively fast. Now, even though Yuji is usually calm, he can get really angry when he faces pure evil. This happened when he saw the terrible things that curses, especially Mahito, did to his friend Junpei. It was the first time he seriously thought about taking someone's life out of anger and hatred. One important thing to note about Yuji is that he is usually willing to put himself in danger to protect others. For example, he didn't hesitate to swallow Sukuna's finger to get rid of a curse and save Megumi, even though he had just met Megumi that day. A big factor in Yuji's personality is that he often doesn't have much regard for himself. He's usually willing to sacrifice himself in most situations in order to help others and doesn't hold himself in very high regard. This can be seen as to when Yuji forces Sukuna to agree not to hurt anyone, but never mentions to Sukuna to not hurt his own self. This is in very stark contrast to a character like Gojo. Gojo is shown to be kind-hearted and a very silly individual when interacting with his students, but he's shown to be quite uncaring and disrespectful towards sorcerer executives. Unlike Yuji, Gojo is a very complex person. He's usually laid back and playful with his students. However, he can be harsh and unkind to high-ranking sorcerers. Gojo believes he's invincible and judges people based on their strength. His desire for power makes him extremely arrogant. He is convinced he's the strongest in the world. Though he's arrogant, he's not above showing compassion for the weak, like when he bonded deeply with Riko. But his pride and arrogance can overshadow these feelings. For instance, during the battle with Toji Fushiguro, he felt no empathy for her in that moment. During intense battles, Gojo can become extremely frenzied. In his pursuit of victory, he's driven by his belief that he is the strongest. He fights aggressively and boldly displays the mastery of all his techniques. In dire situations, he can be extremely ruthless, prioritizing defeating his enemies over protecting innocent bystanders. But he won't harm or kill innocent people just to gain an advantage. Despite his arrogance and strength, Gojo does have a more human side. He showed sadness when he retrieved Riko's body after her death, even though his recent victory made him conceited. He wanted to avenge her death by killing the star, but Suguru Geto, who was his guide at the time, stopped him. Gojo was horrified and panicked when he learned his best friend, Suguru Geto, had become a murderous curse user. He tried to reason with Geto, but ultimately had to stop him to prevent more chaos. Gojo's trauma over losing his best friend played a role in the downfall of Shibuya. He was also very distraught when he thought Yuji had died. Gojo's ultimate goal is to reform Jujutsu with education, hoping to nurture a new generation of sorcerers who can match his strength someday. When it comes to their growth as characters, it is clear that Yuji and Gojo have both grown, but they have grown in opposite directions. Yuji started as a very wide-eyed and naive character, having lived a mostly normal life. Yuji was very much new to the idea of taking lives, and he sometimes struggled with the idea of having to murder for the greater good. But as the show progresses, Yuji comes to terms with the idea he has a greater focus on the greater good and starts to act accordingly. Gojo, on the other hand, starts off as a very egotistical person who never relied on the strength of anyone and only respected the strong. Originally, it was his best friend Geto that kept him in line. But after his defeat from Toji and the loss of his best friend Geto, he realized that his strength alone was not enough. Eventually, Gojo takes on Geto's ideals of protecting the weak, and resolves to change the Jujutsu world by training the next set of sorcerers. In terms of character growth, we see far more growth in Gojo as a person and as a character in the world of JJK. Yuji is still young, so there is more room for him to grow, but overall Gojo has come a much farther way as a character. After going through all this, I have to say, I genuinely do feel like Gojo comes off as the main character. His personality, techniques, growth, and overall impact on the story far outshine Yuji in every aspect. Let's use the Shibuya incident for example. The curse's entire plan was centered around capturing Gojo. An entire plan focused on sealing one person, and in his sealing alone, it was able to drastically alter the fate of their war. This shows the magnitude of the character that is Satoru Gojo. The show itself could possibly still exist without Yuji, without actually changing much. And that isn't a jab at Yuji. I actually genuinely enjoy watching Yuji. In his defense, I'll say Gojo is sometimes a bit too overpowered. What makes watching Yuji fight interesting is that the stakes are so high. Yuji always has us on the edge of our seats. He's strong, but not overpowered, so we generally don't know who's going to win. When it comes to Gojo, once he appears, it's almost a guaranteed win. Yuji's newness helps him to serve like a blank slate for us as the audience. He's more relatable, he struggles, and he suffers. Yuji is new to the world of sorcerers just like us. He isn't an overpowered character like Gojo, because to be honest, if Gojo was the actual star, we'll be watching a totally different genre of anime. Something similar to maybe One Punch Man or Sword Art Online. Personally, I love Gojo as a character. I do wish he was a little less powerful, as he is rarely ever challenged, wink wink. I won't be commenting on the latest manga chapter, but let me know in the comments who feels like the main character to you, Gojo or Yuji. Also, if you enjoyed this video, the YouTube algorithm says you're going to love this video right here.